Welcome back to American Agenda. Many schools across the country are already gearing up for another shutdown amid a spike in coronavirus cases. Princeton University, by the way, taking the most drastic measures yet.
Yeah, the university will not allow returning students to go beyond the school's host country starting January 8th through at least February 15th, but this lockdown does not apply to athletes.
Let me make that clear. If you're at Princeton, you're not allowed to go outside the county where it resides.
Yeah.
Joining us now to discuss, Chairman of Reform California, host of the DeMaio Report, and former San Diego City Council member Carl DeMaio, and Project 21 Director of Membership Development, Donna Jackson. Donna, I'll start with you. You know, that's just one of them. Can we get on to it? Let's see. Okay, Princeton says this on their site. University-sponsored travel, including sports teams, etc., may continue. Student groups that currently have events planned for outside Mercer or Plainsboro should contact their sponsoring office for guidance. Indoor trips in NYC and DC cannot proceed. Indoor trips with food being eaten cannot proceed. Indoor trips in New Jersey and Pennsylvania can. All outdoor trips can. Anyway, Donna, this craziness, once again, coming from the bastion of education.
This is crazy. When we're looking at these policies, we should be weighing the risk of a person getting COVID versus the devastation that it caused by these lockdowns. Now, there's so many studies that are showing there's huge gaps in learning, especially amidst single-parent households and minority communities, where you're going to have larger dropout rates. You're going to have lower income for these communities. You're going to have devastating effects, especially economically. It's going to be a long-term effect, and that doesn't include the mental impact that it's having on these families.
Hey, Donna, I would just say this, as a parent that has a couple kids getting ready to go to college, how about this, tuition at $48,000 a year, and Allie, can you imagine paying that and your kids can't go anywhere, can't do anything, and then you got Cornell, I think they're telling them stay in your room. What's going on?
Yeah, they're trapped. And the other thing is a lot of these schools have now gone to online, right? So you're paying all this money.
Exactly. You're paying all that money.
You're going online. You have to be vaccinated. You have to get a booster to go to the school, but now it's online. Carl, I want to go to this. I live in Massachusetts. I have 3 kids. We were waiting to hear if our kids would have school today because they were toying back and forth of calling this day a professional development day. And districts across the state have closed school, some up until Wednesday. Bev Kontos released a statement recently saying Massachusetts public school students and their families have struggled with the uncertainty and anxiety of the COVID pandemic for 2 years. They have the right to know that after the holiday break, they are returning to safe schools. Given the ever-increasing infection rate and the virulent behavior of the current COVID strain, we know they will not. Carl, she also did go on to say that we are in a public health crisis, and that is beyond our control, and that they, meaning the government of Massachusetts, must acknowledge that returning to school on Monday will make the crisis much worse. I mean, when are the kids going to get back to school? And as Donna mentioned, the mental health, this is not what we're talking about. This is not a public health crisis. This is a mental health crisis.
Right. Well, let's notice the difference, though. This is not happening everywhere. This is only happening in those colleges and universities that are run by far-left woke administrators, and it's only happening in school districts that are run by blue state Democrats. In our red states, our kids are learning. They haven't had the sort of mental health challenges or educational impacts from these lockdowns that you've seen in the blue states and blue school districts. And as the last panelist referenced, many of the school districts that are blue have the highest percentage of minority, low-income families and students, and this is disproportionately hurting them. You want to talk about institutional racism, you're looking at it front and center in terms of how the blue state and blue school districts have decided to overreact to COVID. One last point. Yeah. We are past Delta. All the data shows we are past Delta, which is arguably the most difficult variant. Now we're into Omicron, which is a very docile variant. Then you add to that the fact that even Delta was not really impacting and targeting the younger population. These kids were very resilient. There is no scientific basis for the fear that has been put out there. There's no scientific basis for the lockdowns of these schools for these kids.
And Donna, also online learning, I'm sorry, it does not work.
No, it's really hurting the kids more than helping.
It is. And Allie, you're a parent. You've been through this. You know.
I have. And something that we're not talking about is if we go back to online learning, how does this affect the parents? Because parents can't go to work, especially if you have younger kids, and now they have to take time off or even leave their job for this.
That's the first thing my wife said, who's a teacher, who, by the way, is in a district in which the teachers union sent a letter to the, this is in Arlington, Virginia. I'm embarrassed to mention this, but they did this. They sent a letter to the superintendent asking not to go back, but to stay online or go online again. And it was riddled with errors, grammatical mistakes that a parent circled and marked and sent back. I mean, that's who we're talking about. But it was the first thing my wife said, Allie, is, what about parents who, they got to go to work? I mean, it just, Carl, that these people seem to be out of touch. We're out of time on this particular topic. We'll continue our conversation. But Allie, I guess I continue to be just baffled by why these people are making these decisions.
Me too. Me too. All right, stand by, everyone. We'll be right back.